Hello, and welcome to Get Out of the Way and Let Them Learn. My name is Jessica Duvall, and I am a teacher in North Dakota. Our session today is all about project-based learning, or PBL. We will look at benefits of PBL, elements or musts of PBL, lessons that my teaching colleagues and I have learned by implementing PBL pedagogy in our classrooms, and much more. MBAResearch is a nonprofit organization designed to make your life easier in the classroom. MBAResearch is a consortium of 26 states' Department of Education. These states work together to provide materials and services specifically for business and marketing classrooms. If your state is a member of the consortium, that means that you have access to materials at discounted prices and to a number of free materials. That also means that as a business or marketing teacher, you are part of the MBAResearch family. The starting point for everything that you're going to see today is the MBAResearch's website. It should be your go-to location for all of the organization's services and products. You'll find that all of these fit into an instructional system, rather than being independent standalone items. The instructional system starts and ends with business. Business research and input defines the standards, which drives the curriculum. Instructional materials are developed to meet the standards, and assessments are designed to assess the standards. Today's workshop will focus on instruction, specifically project-based learning. Why bother with project-based learning? Because research studies have demonstrated that PBL increases students' mastery of skills and knowledge, students understand content more deeply, remember what they learn, and retain it longer than is often the case with traditional instruction. PBL better prepares students to integrate concepts within your classroom as well as across multiple disciplines. And it helps students to develop 21st century skills such as problem solving, communication, and collaboration. So here's a question for you. Which do you like better, the dinner itself or dessert? Now, although I'm always willing to eat a nice bowl of ice cream or a piece of chocolate cake, I know that I could not survive without dinner, without the main course. That's the difference between projects and project-based learning. Projects are like dessert. They come at the end of the learning, after students have been drilled and tested and lectured. They're nice to have, but not a necessity. Project-based learning, on the other hand, is like dinner itself. It encompasses the entire learning process from beginning to end. Let's look at the difference between projects and project-based learning a different way. A project comes at the end of learning. You teach the students all they need to know. They learn it, and then they prove that they've learned it by completing a capstone-type project. They're given some type of opportunity to present, or write a paper, or whatever. You grade it, and then you move on. As you can see in the top diagram, the project is dessert. It comes at the end of the unit after everything else has been done. Project-based learning, on the other hand, requires students to start on their project at the beginning of the unit with an entry event and a driving question. Learn the required content along the way in the context of the project, present their project, and then reflect on what they've learned. We're going to watch a short video introduction to project-based learning. This quick video was developed by the Buck Institute of Education and does a pretty good job of explaining the basics of PBL.
You remember what it was like in school. It was boring. You sat in class, memorized as much as you could, and tried to pass a test at the end. But is that good enough? These days, school can be more interesting and effective by focusing students on work that matters. This is project-based learning explained. Most adults live in a world of projects. Whether it's a job assignment, home improvement, or planning a wedding, we we need to actively solve problems. But unfortunately, schoolwork looks more like this than this. Let's take a look at this project-based world. Meet Claire. She was recently presented with a challenge. Her company, Supersuds, makes soap, and it was up to her to find the most earth-friendly way to produce it in the future. Her boss gave her a budget and a few requirements, and it was up to her to come up with a solution. She organized and managed a team who researched the options and created materials summarizing the issues. Claire's team asked for feedback and presented their findings to the boss. Claire came out of the project looking like a rock star, and she learned a lot about green products. If you look closely, Claire's success involved critical thinking, collaboration, and communication, things that aren't often taught in traditional classrooms. The world needs more Claires, so how do we get them? The answer is project-based learning, or PBL. By focusing students on a project, teachers put them on a path that deepens their knowledge and builds skills they'll need in the future. Here's what I mean. Mr. Simmons has always been a good science teacher, and his students do well on Friday's tests. Unfortunately, what they learned was gone by Saturday morning. That wasn't good enough for him. Soon he learned about project-based learning and decided to give it a shot. Mr. Simmons got the idea for his first project on microorganisms when nearly half of his students were suddenly absent with the flu. He asked his students why they thought so many of their classmates got sick at the same time. That lively discussion produced a lot of good questions and a list of things the kids wanted to know. Mr. Simmons then announced their project was to help elementary school kids understand how can we not get sick. After dividing the class into teams, he got them started on the project. It was up to the students to ask questions, research, collaborate, give each other feedback, and figure out the best ways to make their points clear to children. One team chose to make an educational video on the connection between hand washing and avoiding the flu. Another chose to create posters to show how viruses spread. The project teams showed off their final work to an enthusiastic audience of parents and their children at a nearby elementary school. Sitting in the front row was our good friend and local rock star Claire, who saw a bit of herself in the students. It was clear that the project was a success for the students, the audience, and Mr. Simmons. His students practiced critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. The project wasn't about memorization, but learning in depth about viruses and how to prevent spreading disease, a lesson they will never forget. At the end of the presentation, Claire introduced herself to the students and told them that they were rock stars and that the world needs more people who can think like them. To learn more about project-based learning, go to BIE.org.
Here are the essential elements or components of project-based learning. At the heart of it all, project-based learning focuses on significant content or standards. In the science project from the video, the significant content was on microorganisms and preventing the spread of disease. Students are still responsible for mastering the content, so in addition to the research that students are doing for the project, formative assessments like quizzes and tests are still used to check for understanding in relation to the standards. And in addition to leading students to master specific learning outcomes, it builds 21st century skills like collaboration, communication, and critical thinking. In the science project, the students in Mr. Simmons' class were using 21st century skills as well. PBL gives students the opportunity to conduct in-depth inquiry, typically focusing on a real-world issue or problem. In the video, the students researched the spread of viruses. Students needed that information in order to develop strategies to avoid getting sick. The driving question in a project is the hook and get students excited about the project. In the video, when a large part of the class was out sick, the teacher was able to use that as the hook because it was personal to students. PBL encourages student voice and choice, engaging students in a way that traditional instruction cannot. This means that each group's end product will be different. In the video, you saw examples of students making educational videos on hand washing. One group made a poster on how viruses spread, and all of the groups presented to an audience at a local elementary school. PBL provides students with the opportunity to reflect on what they've learned and done, and make improvements as appropriate. This wasn't shown directly in the video, but students could have provided a draft to their classroom teacher before the presentations, or students could do a reflection on what went well and what didn't. Research shows that students retain more knowledge when they are given opportunities to reflect or to think about what they've learned. So it's a good idea, whether you're using PBL or not, to include reflection opportunities. Finally, PBL involves a public audience. Students shouldn't be limited to the confines of the classroom with no contact to the real world. They should have the opportunity to interact with, and better yet, visit business professionals and others in the community. Who was the public audience in the video? Well, it was the audience at their presentation, so parents, local elementary school students, and their local rock star scientist. If you're looking for more information or would like to contact MBAResearch, you can contact them using Twitter, Facebook, the website, their phone number for customer service, or you can email customer service at service@mbaresearch.org. Thank you for your time.